Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 462. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. All season long, we're talking video games, one game per episode, and then we are ranking that game against the rest of the games we've talked about this season on thefreecheese.com/the list. This episode is our 27th game, and we're talking Mega Drive's very own Advanced Busterhawk Gleylancer. Before we jump into our discussion, I want to know, Matt, Mark, if you were a spaceship's bullets, what color and spread would you be?
You say a ship's bullets?
Yeah, if alien technology came down, it just captured you and converted you as a being into energy that would shoot out of the front of a spaceship, what color and spread style would you end up being, do you think?
I think I would be some sort of charge beam. Has different grades to it.
Any particular?
Yeah. Yeah, like it'd be different grades to it, kind of like Mega Man X style, but instead of just like one fireball, it would be like just a straight ass beam.
Yeah.
Kind of like what is it? Iron Man's special in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Sure, yeah.
It'd be something like that. Maybe not that huge, but something to that extent. And it'd be like,
Yeah, I can see that.
and it'd be like an orangish color. So yeah, so it has a cooldown, but that'd be the trade-off.
Matt, what about you? What do you think you'd get converted into?
One of those terrible arc projectile things. Though not straight, but they nope, not Medusa.
Like a sine wave?
Nope, just one of those arc. I'm thinking the Friday the 13th Super Nintendo style, where it's that terrible arc that goes over enemies and doesn't hit anything. And probably orange.
Yeah, see?
I feel like I would be a greenish spread shot.
Always good to have a spread shot.
Which maybe I'm not going to psychoanalyze myself, but I certainly will on both of you. So Mark, seems like you think that you are rage that gets compressed and then released in long-term spurts, and Matt, you think you are generally useless but kind of cool to look at. Is that how you guys see yourselves?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
Yeah, you pretty much describe
Okay,
bipolar.
there it is. Got it in one. Just like developer NCS Corporation did with 1992's Advanced Busterhawk Gleylancer. First released July 17th, 1992, so we are right here on the 30th anniversary of the Mega Drive Classic, published by Messiah. That's Masaya. Again, released for the aforementioned Mega Drive. It would later see a release in North America via the Wii's Virtual Console, and then just recently, last year in 2021, Retalica Games released it on all major modern platforms for relatively low cost, considering this game's extreme rarity and high aftermarket cost in the collector's market. Retalica put it out. It's $6.99 if you're paying full price, but it's often on sale for less than that. Your back of the box quote reads, take the role of Lucia Cabrock, a rookie pilot in the Earth Federation in the year 2025. When she hears of her admiral father's mysterious abduction by an invading enemy force to unknown parts of the galaxy, she commandeers one of her ship's best fighters, the advanced Busterhawk Gleylancer, and sets off to comb the farthest reaches for signs of her father. So this is a side-scrolling shooter, much in the vein of like a Gradius or R-Type or something of the sort. I believe this is also our first shooter on the list, if I'm not mistaken. We haven't done one yet, right? So far. We may have more later, but I think this is the first.
Yes.
I guess let's do this one.
Do you consider Res?
Yeah. Res is kind of a shooter, yeah. I would say so. Not in this traditional arcade style, but so with that, why don't we start before we jump deep into advanced Busterhawk Gleylancer, or Gleylancer as we will probably refer to it as. What do you guys call these types of games?
Bullet hells. Not this one in particular, but I always consider these types of games bullet hells.
I always call them shmups, even though you're going horizontal.
Well, shmup is the short for shoot 'em up, so there's that. Yeah, I think shmup was kind of always a thing. Colloquially, these were at one point called shooters before shooter has kind of a different connotation these days regarding video games. And then there's a couple different ones. There's in Japan they were largely known as STG or shooting game. Shmup is another one. Shoot 'em up, side-scrolling shooter, etc. I think those are all good. Bullet hell to me. There's a very specific subgenre.
Yeah, I know that gets really extreme, but I get the idea immediately if you tell me that.
Yeah.
I guess I always think of these as like arcade shooters, but I guess that could be like, I guess it's sometimes that could be confused with a light gun, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
I just call them...
No, but I think arcade shooter makes style for this.
Just call them Galaga wannabes. No.
Right.
Yeah, I like that too. I guess before we jump into this, what is your guys' kind of just basic background with these types of games? Matt, what's your exposure to a side-scrolling shooter?
0 to none. I mean, side-scrolling... Honestly, that I'm being dead serious. Probably the most time I spent playing a side-scrolling shooter is probably Nier Automata.
Okay, yeah, when they had those sections like that, yeah. And I guess we can also extend this to vertically scrolling.
Okay, so then if we include vertical, yes, I do like to go to the Galaga machine and an arcade. I'm not good at it, but I do like to play it.
Sure. Mark, what about you? What's your...
Let's see. I think my first exposure was R-Type on Super Nintendo. I was awful at it. Didn't understand a lick of it. Then Galaga came along not too long after. And I really dug that one. For shoot 'em ups, do they have to be a spaceship?
No, I don't think so. There's one I don't necessarily want to name right now because it may or may not be on our list later this year, but that one certainly is not spaceships, or kind of is, but not necessarily. Yeah. Why? What do you got?
You can say Silver Surfer. It's okay.
Oh yeah, sure.
No, I was gonna say Contra. Contra 3 specifically.
That one is, I believe, what they refer to as a run and gun. But I think in a way that's still a side-scrolling shooter.
Okay, yeah, true. Damn. And then then there's the bullet hells. But I think my exposure to that mostly was Ikaruga. And
yeah, I think Ikaruga is definitely one of the more popular ones, and challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of had, that arcade approach where you'd see the machine, oh, I want to play that. You play it, you're not good at it, you die, you lose your ships, and then that's it. And it really wasn't until, we'd get more of these at home that I could spend time with it. But honestly, I think my history with these games has just gotten more and more intimate in the years as they've increased, right? Or the last 5 to 6 years is when I've really seen myself get way into them, and I think learn them in a different way. Because I think that's another piece of it too, is there's a science to playing these games and understanding these and studying the patterns and studying the bullets and studying the shots. And I think this game in particular, a year ago when it released on modern platforms, or about, I guess, less than a year, but still, I think that's something that taught me how to play these effectively. But a big one that kicked off this for me was 2020 got very weird, I think, with me and video games and kind of what I was exploring. So I got way into libraries that I hadn't really explored before. I was playing some Sega Saturn stuff, or I guess that was more 2019. But I got into Game Gear then, and a lot of the really good Game Gear games are ports of shooters, or they're game like something like GG Aleste or GG Aleste 2. Maybe it's a less, I don't know. But those are all, specifically straight to Game Gear port or Game Gear games that were very highly regarded. And I got into those, which the Aleste games got me to not import, but through the Japanese eShop buy that Aleste collection that came out that M2 did. And I think also having a fascination with M2, and that's a lot of what their modern day output is all of these shooting game compilations. I ended up really getting into that. And that was cool because it was a Game Gear game that was made in 2020, which doesn't make sense. There's tons of hobbyist stuff that still comes out on all of these platforms, but that was one that really kind of kicked it off and made me want to learn these things a bit better. And once I got the Mister, you start looking at, okay, I now have access to hardware accurate emulation of this stuff. What are the games I missed out on these platforms? And when you start looking at Genesis lists or Mega Drive lists globally, you start to see a lot of things like Gleylancer that never made their way over here that were highly recommended and whatever. So I remember trying Gleylancer for Mega Drive and being blown away just at that first stage music right off the bat. That pulls you in immediately. It's just very, very poppy and Genesis-y. It has a good feel and bump to it that you want to be in that world and see what it is. And I think something about this game that stands out is it does have that story. Not initially, right? First stage, you're thrown in just like any other game, but then it starts to kind of peel back these layers and introduce this. It's light, but it's still a story to keep you kind of connected to what's happening in the ship rather than just you're a ship shooting things. And I think I played this a bit, in its original Genesis form before the release came out on Switch. Well, it came out on everything, but I bought it on Switch and had that rewind. And I think the rewind is the thing that taught me more how to play these games and what to look for in these. I've got a lot of specific things about this game to talk about and, thoughts, feelings, impressions. And I want to hear from you guys. For the listeners, we kind of talked a bit about what the story of this is, of course. But in the game, you do have a couple of options in terms of play style. So right from the start, you're asked to choose what type of gun you want. And, I guess this modern port, you can do it in the old one. You can change difficulty as you jump in, whether you want it on easy or normal or hard. If you beat it on hard, you'll unlock Mania mode, which is a different gameplay style. And then you can increase or decrease your ship's movement speed as well from 4 different settings. In terms of the weapons, it's really just like how they shoot. You'll get power-ups throughout the stages that dictate kind of what type of shot you have. But you have normal, where the guns will face in the same direction the ship is moving. And if you hold down, this is on the original Genesis. Remember, Genesis was ABC. So A changed your speed. It cycled through those speed numbers. B was your shot. And C, in the case of the normal shot, would lock your guns in place. So if you pushed up and you were shooting, your secondary weapons would shoot up. If you hold C while that's happening, even though you start moving in different directions, it's still locked vertically. So that's how, when you're navigating through some of those stages later on where you have to like break apart different obstacles in the world, you could do that with locking your things. You had reverse shot, which is the exact same thing as normal, except they're the opposite. If you're pushing up, they'll shoot down. Search, where the guns are always looking for enemies that are nearest to you and shooting. Multi, which is either the top or bottom 180 degree arc of the ship. So if you move left or right, it'll kind of like swivel in that direction. And there's multi R, which is the same thing, but with that reverse piece where they kind of shoot in the opposite direction of your horizontal motion. Shadow, which is they imitate the motion of your ship. So they can only fire forward. And then roll, where they kind of always just rotate around your ship, shooting in every direction. And those in the newer version, you can definitely cycle through them. I don't think there's an easy way to cycle through them in the original release. I think that was something added for the re-release. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I really love this game. It was one where I liked it when I played the Mega Drive version. I liked it even more when I played through the Switch version. I bought the Xbox version and played a bit through that. And then just this week, I bought it on PlayStation because it was on sale and played through it and got the Platinum Trophy in it. Because why not? It's a quick game, especially with the rewind. You could beat it in about an hour. But yeah, what about... So this was your first time playing this. Matt, what did you think of
well, I have to
Advanced Busterhawk?
I have to start with a disclaimer. I will be breaking a long-time tradition of cracking open a beer for a Platinum Trophy because it did not feel like a warranted Platinum Trophy. Yeah, first time playing it, I knew it was a whatever you want to call it, a shmup or horizontal one or whatever. Yeah, immediately the music I think is something that it sticks out with me, and it was kind of consistent throughout. I enjoyed listening to the game. In terms of gameplay, I don't think there was anything like incredibly special. I like the unique like secondary weapon thing, and cycling through them. I liked cycling through them, so I don't know. Again, how much I should appreciate that compared to its original game, but I definitely used it because I didn't know how the lock mechanism worked. So thank you for finally explaining that one to me. Yeah. Besides the secondary guns, it just felt like another one of those. Incredibly hard. I honestly don't see me playing this game for very long without that rewind button. But, I thought it was good to, I thought it was all right looking for it being Mega Drive, and the music stuck out. And again, nice having the cutscenes, especially in a game, this old on the hardware it's on. It honestly reminds me a little bit of another game that we've already talked about on our list, Valis, where it was unique to have this story kind of going on in the background while you're going through these levels that are tough as nails. Again, Valis I think wins in the art department there, and I think it wins in a lot of art departments, kind of up to today, really. Mo, I liked it. I definitely liked my time with it. I definitely liked the fact that I played on a PlayStation 5 with a rewind button and, was able to see all the levels through in about an hour or so. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple things I did personally like. But again, I don't really play these types of games, and they don't really gravitate to me. I've never been really good at them either. So I think we're at that weird middle ground where I'm kind of going outside my realm of not comfort per se, but a genre I don't touch a lot, and I think that's kind of having an effect on how much I do like this game.
Mark, how about you? First time through.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway from Gleylancer?
It took me a bit to learn all the mechanics. I thought starting out you were just married to whatever you picked. And then I learned as I was hitting buttons, oh, okay, now I can cycle through things. And then, depending on your power-up, it kind of changes how it acts in a way. Not necessarily, but it's very minor. But also I was playing on the Switch. The right stick can also shoot if you don't have auto fire turned on or something. So if you're using the right stick, it basically turns off whatever version that your shooters are doing. And I didn't cycle through them a lot either. I had a set thing, and I kind of stuck with it for the most part. And that was Search 2 with the flamethrower or the gun burner. That was kind of
buddy.
that would boss fights would be done in less than 10 seconds.
Yeah, Search really helped with that.
Yeah, Search was my go-to as well.
Yeah, first I wanted it to be Roll because, Fred Durst, but it just didn't turn out like that for me. And then,
it immediately bad. Because I think I wanted the same thing, and immediately just not. No.
Yeah, but overall, the game's fine. It didn't. I think without that rewind button, I wouldn't like this that much. It is very brutal with you're dead in one hit, or if you touch an edge, you're done. Yeah, it's very punishing in that sense. And then no matter how far you got, you have to start the whole level over, and I just don't got time for that. So I really appreciated that rewind button to go through it. Compared to other shooters I've played, I don't know. I mean, I do love... This one does feel more in-depth mechanically. I don't think many other shooters do what this one does with the way it handles the power-ups and the way you can have them work for you. R-Type has its own thing, but that's kind of like going to a subway or something and picking out every little thing you want and then going and hope for the best. I like with this one, it's flexible and versatile if you so choose to play it that way. I think the only time I really switched my power-up was stage 9, where everything is just covered in that pink, organic stuff that you have to get rid of to find your path. I had to switch to laser and have it rolling so I could just cut everything around me. The only downfall was that, because of the way the extra shooters are positioned, and the way the gun is versus how close everything is to you, you can't really hit everything, or you can't hit the enemies exactly the way you would hope for, because of just the range of the fire was just too much. But I think that was the only really real obstacle I had some trouble with, trying to maneuver and go through that. But I appreciated this game not really being a bullet hell. It was more like a dodge a platform hell or dodge an object type of hell. They weren't exactly bullets, giant blocks dropping from all different places, or space junk you gotta try to maneuver around or whatever. And that stood out to me. So I do like this game for its uniqueness, because I don't think it really dealt with stuff like that, especially in this type of genre. But yeah, I don't know. Afterwards, I unlocked hard mode when beating normal. I tried it a little bit. It did seem a little more intense. That probably could be fun. I could probably go back to it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle of it. I think it's fine.
I feel like I had hard mode unlocked from the start on PlayStation for some reason. I might be wrong about that.
You did.
I don't know, but I know I unlocked Mania.
I played in hard mode from the start.
It was.
Oh,
I
might have had it unlocked, but it like specifically made a window to tell me that, hey, this is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, when I played through it on Xbox on normal, I got that prompt that said, you've unlocked hard mode. But when I fired it up on PlayStation Raw, I had hard mode right there. So maybe I think in the original Mega Drive, if you beat it on normal, you unlock hard. And now they've added this Mania mode. Maybe the Mania was in there in the old one. I can't remember. But I tried each of them, and it's the things that stood out to me in terms of difficulty differences. It's like, they almost look like, I don't know, to me they look like space dump trucks in that first stage that shoot these. There's like two of them that come up at the right side of the screen, and they end up where they shoot these like big white balls of light.
Yeah.
One of the most immediate differences I noticed between normal and hard and Mania is the speed in which those big white balls shoot out and fly across the screen. So I think that was a big part of it. But later on, if you remember the stage where you mentioned, Mark, the falling blocks that you need to, or the blocks that kind of come in, you need to like navigate through and around. Yeah, the face ones. There's a section where I think it was on normal, there's 2 columns of them falling down. And you kind of have to like perfectly get through. On hard and Mania, there's those things falling, and there's a 3rd column in the middle moving up. So you need to like get in, fall down, go up, go, or like just hand jam your way through. It's tough, but there's little things like that there is an actual difference between difficulties, which is cool to give yourself a different bit of a challenge going through.
Yeah.
On the modern platforms, difficulty does not dictate trophies or achievements or any sort of thing like that. It just is what it is. But beating it through a certain difficulty will bump up or get you a new difficulty type unlocked. I think you both talked about the rewind a bit and kind of the difficulty curve of this. And there's something with the shmup community that the 1 credit clear is often talked about, and that is, can you get through the entire game with 1 credit? In the arcade, of course, that would be just pop in a single quarter, whatever the minimum is to get going. But in modern platforms, usually a lot of these ports you can just quarter dump, or in some cases you can't, right? Like if you didn't, even in this, if you didn't, whatever, you have a limited number of continues or anything like that. And obviously it's something where over time playing a game like this, repetition and learning the patterns will help you to get there. But that's a long journey to get good at these games, because you have to play them over and over again and see exactly what the patterns are and how to avoid them and all of that. And the thing I liked a lot about the rewind that I was aware of last year when I first played through this wholly, but this week especially playing through, is that these types of games are generally tough, but with the rewind, I found that I only had to rewind to correct stupid mistakes that I'd made. Yeah. And kind of rewinding it shows you in real time where you screwed up. And usually in my case, it was a bullet that I wasn't paying attention to, an obstacle I got too close to, or an animation that I didn't watch closely enough. And ultimately it all was just a reflection of me not paying close enough attention to everything on the screen. So the rewind kind of illuminates your mistakes, and then I felt like I got better at playing this and playing other games like this. And I was then suddenly, every time I'd have to hit rewind, it made me more aware of, there's going to be, those guys are coming top right. And you kind of get used to enemy patterns where, like, if something just came from bottom right, top right's coming. If it just came from the middle, then you might get something from the back too, right? Top and bottom left. And you can kind of start to predict where things are going to happen and kill it before it actually enters the screen. And this game in particular, Gleylancer, I really appreciated that certain stages. Stage 7 is one I jotted down. I think stage 7 is the one with the faces, and that one had the no, stage 7 was the one that had the blocks you had to break away, not the pink ones you just described, but the other ones that were more like ice in a way.
Oh, yeah.
That one, like, I had to change my aim type to get through. I liked that the stage 4 boss had walls closing in on you, where that kind of complemented what you just did in the stage itself. I thought those were good. On the whole, I don't think that Gleylancer has anything wildly inventive in terms of stage design. A lot of them are pretty straightforward. However, there's little highlights. Like, I love that stage 5 was just a huge ship that you rotate around.
Yeah.
Like, that was a cool break of a level. Yeah, and I really liked the voice call-outs. It's that Genesis, like, really garbled, like, no shit!
Yeah,
but
like,
it
couldn't understand it at all.
I think
it took to stage
like...
8 where I think I baited out a little bit, like enemy approaching, something along those lines, right?
Enemy approaching. Yeah. Yeah, super good. I love it.
It reminded me of like a more bit crushed version of the voice in Virtual On.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Did anyone
did
anyone pull a me and rewind a third of the level to get a different power up because you picked the wrong one?
No, I didn't go into that. Yep. I just lived with my misery for a bit until the next one came.
Well, so the one thing I noticed this time around is that power-ups were worth, I think, 1,000 points. So it was good to collect every power-up if you were trying to go for a high score. And, however, some of the power-ups I would forget, like, wait, is this the laser? Because I hate the laser. And then I'd pick it up, realize, oh, shoot, that's the laser. So let me rewind, and I'll grab that one first and the other one second, so I have the flamethrower, actually, or whatever. Yeah, I totally did that. There were some sub-weapon types that I liked way better than others. Yeah, I love that everything had its own like color to it, its own feel. There's enough variety. Like I don't know. I feel like there's different challenges you could do to this game that I would want to do because I mean, I've played through this game 4 or 5 times now, and I'm not tired of it at all. And I feel like doing stuff like going for a 1 credit clear would be a nice, fun challenge. But maybe even past that, like trying it with one of those weapon types specifically, or making sure I leave it on normal, right? Or reverse, or one of those things, and not switching between whatever. And actually going back now to the Mega Drive version has been a super challenge because you don't have the rewind, and it's a crutch that I didn't realize I had, but it's making me better at the game, I think.
Yeah, the one dumb 2022 and like, you know, get it on a new console with emulation and stuff, whatever. I made a bad mistake in thinking that speed was mapped to emulation speed as some kind of dumb thing. So that stage 2 boss, I even texted Joe. I was like, I'm like 5 minutes away from quitting this game because this boss, the snake attack, is fucking ridiculously fast. What can you do? There's no tell. You can't shoot off that part of the ship. Nothing. And then I realized I watched someone's walkthrough. Like, why is your ship going so much faster? And then I realized, oh, this is actually not emulation speed. This is actually mapped to the ship and is a legitimate mechanic of the game. And then once I figured that out, it was fine. But man, God, in stage 2, I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with this game?
I forget which boss I know the boss, but I forget which stage the boss is in. But it was basically just a testicle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I don't know what that
cool.
was supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure that was... Like, I'm fully convinced it was just a testicle. Like, not even joking.
It was... Hey, man, there's that Monster Hunter boss that looks just like a...
Yeah.
You know. No, yeah, like hangs from the top and then falls to the bottom. A couple of the bosses were weird designs, but again, playing into that whole alien race thing.
Yeah.
I suppose some aliens might look like testicles.
It had like
Did you find that once you like unlocked the speed and like figured that part out, Matt, that the rest of the game was easier, more approachable, or like did that
no, I was getting my ass kicked left and right. That didn't make it better. The only time it made it a little bit better was navigating those, I want to instinctively call them platforming sections, but those like those sections you have to kind of navigate through, like the faces. There was that one that had like the metal bars where like the like once you kind of went through a gap, there were those like little turrets along the wall waiting for you, so you had to like kind of creep over, shoot them, and then go. Like that section, I was kind of toggling speeds a little bit there. It was weird. I felt like I was gear shifting in an F1 game.
It had that, like, you kind of needed to, otherwise you'd overshoot yourself movement-wise and bash into a wall.
No, but my biggest gripe with this game, and it might just be I need to get my eyes checked, I could not see, like, when I died, I didn't know what it was from, because I didn't see it coming. And it wasn't even that, like, it was, like, there was just a lot of chaos. I just literally, like, one dude on screen shoots, like, 3 little bullets. I only saw one of the 3, and the rest get lost in the background or whatever. And that's my biggest gripe. I just wish that they were a different color or a little bit brighter or something to help me see. Especially with some of those missiles in later stages. Like some of the enemies have like missiles or projectiles are white, and they seem like to blend like right with the background or their design. Again, it might have been me. I need to get my eyes checked or pay more close attention. But that was like my biggest gripe, was just like, man, like, it's already hard enough. Just help me see the bullet just like a little bit more.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't help that you're like focusing on certain things that, you know what I mean? Like, you're looking for something that when something unexpected happens, like, have you ever, gonna kind of ruin a commercial, but have you ever seen that like British or I think it's British ad for like watching out for bikers, but they do it by showing you a basketball game? Is that ringing a bell?
No.
All right, I'm going to spoil it for you, but the fun of this, and for you too, listener, is that even though I'm going to give you the answer, you will watch it and then still fall for it, and it's fine. So it's an ad that pops up, and it just starts with you see a group of people playing basketball. Some of them are in white jerseys, some of them are in black jerseys, and the whole thing is in like black and white grayscale film. And there's a prompt of text that comes up on the screen, and it says, count how many passes the white team makes to each other. So then you're watching, and you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. It was I got 7, right? And you're like excited. And then it's like, the number was 7. And you're like, yeah, I got it. And then it's like, but did you notice the moonwalking bear? And then they rewind it, and they play it back. And that now you're looking for the moonwalking bear. And it's right there the whole time. And if you're like still skeptical, you can rewind to the beginning of the video and make sure it wasn't just like put in after. Fully there the entire time. It was not whatever. And it's an ad saying like it's easy to miss what you're not looking for, because and then like watch out for bikers on the road. Whatever. But I think it applies here too. Like, you know what to look for in shooting games. You get so used to, especially after a couple of levels, like they kind of set a standard of like, this is the missile type you'll see. This is the stage hazard you'll see. And there's so many things introduced from right, from left, from top to bottom that they do kind of blend in over a while. And I think that was something maybe not the original release's credit, but that rewind again, that really helped me. And repetition helps too, right? Like the more you do this stuff and the more you, like, this is my like 5th time playing through the game, or 4th or 5th, you're seeing things and you kind of know what to expect and where to expect it. And I think that's the beauty of it being so short, is that you can kind of, I can beat this game probably quicker than we can have a podcast about it and end up like learning it just that much better. And then you take that knowledge forward to other games like this. Even if they're like vertical scrolling shooters, you still kind of end up, you learn the language of it. It's just a matter of reapplying those skill sets.
And then like the other thing, I think I made this game harder on myself at times, and it's Almost like that, again, we use another race analogy, like almost like not using the whole track for a lap time. Like, I kept thinking my side guns were part of my hitbox. And I would overcommit to dodging a bullet and then sometimes go right into another bullet because, again, I probably didn't see it. So, like, and then sometimes, like, navigating through some of those weird, lack of a better word again, platforming sections. There's like with the faces and stuff. Like I felt like I expected to die and hit rewind, and I found myself hitting rewind when I didn't need to because I thought my side cannon was death. So again, if this was the normal, I guess, game, I would have rewind by accident. But yeah, that was something I felt like I overcommitted to some bullets or missiles or lasers or whatever, and I would die because of the overcommitment, thinking everything was in game or it was in play to get hit.
I had similar experiences.
Some games that do that.
Where like but when moving around, I forget the main ship. I keep thinking I am the sub weapon. So like,
I've done that too.
Because just the main ship actually gets lost in all the action, and I just keep focusing on that, and then because of that, I keep hitting the edges of the screen and blowing up. So I'm overcorrecting myself a lot of the time.
That happened a lot with the backwards stuff because you can't turn your ship around to shoot backwards, so you have to rely on your cannons or your side stuff. So like I would get more caught up in again thinking I'm the side more so than the actual ship in those sections. Unless, again, there was a button that I didn't know. I could flip the ship. But I don't think there is.
No.
The other, I think the one thing I appreciate about this with the speed piece is something like Gradius, you need to collect power-ups, and then there's a couple of different ways to play Gradius. You can set it to auto, or you can set it to manual, where you're choosing when the power-ups are, fired off. But with that, if I always go for speed first because I need my ship to move a little bit faster around the thing, but there's no variation to it. Once you're locked into a speed set, you're locked in, and if you die, you lose those power ups, and you need to reacquire your speed. Where this, I did like being able to just adjust it when I wanted to. And I would have loved to have seen a sequel to this that leaned into that stuff a little bit more, made stages that were a bit more thoughtful in terms of having to speed up and slow down at certain spots. Because outside of a few moments, there really wasn't a large precedent to mess with your speed too much.
Yeah, I mean, I took that stage too as all right, okay, you taught me manipulating speed. Got it. All right, where should I use this? And again, I never really mess with it too besides that one spot. I don't even think I really needed it there. I think I just was playing with it because it was available. And then the other thing with the power-ups, I want to mention one thing. The game always kind of fools you initially, especially if you don't know what you're getting yourself into with this, and it's your first time playing it. The first two pickups are you adding your sub-weapons. So I kind of naturally thought, oh, well, each time I collect the power-up, they're just going to get stronger, and they're going to shoot, their bullets are going to have more impact and more damage. No, they just start changing types. So, I didn't realize until, later on in stage one that, these are just types now. It's not a build-up of damage or, hit points or whatever.
And that's something, honestly, if that Aleste collection would have been more accessible, that probably would have been the game I put on the list over this one. But I would either need to import a physical copy and then lend it to each of you, or walk you through and have you even want to set up a Japanese eShop or PSN account, because there's just no easy way to go about that. But that game, and I think any of the Aleste series, even if you go, you can check out Musha on Genesis. That's on the it's on that expansion pack now. You can check out Musha. But those games, they do that. The more you collect in the thing, your sub weapons and your secondary fires, they do get more powerful. There's a maximum to it, but it's part of the hook is to build it up to the max, and then Has this inspired you to check out any other games like this, or are there any now that you've kind of seen before or been aware of or tried that you feel more confident to approach?
There was a game I really loved back on the DS called Nano Stray.
Yeah, I remember Nano Stray.
I think that was that's probably one of my favorite shoot 'em ups. Just with the way you have like your different power ups and everything, and that was really cool for a DS. Just using the two screens like that. I want to go back and see how it's held up, how my thoughts on it are, and all that, and then try the second one because I can't remember if I played the second one or not. But yeah, that'd be nice to go back and visit and try to now with this more experienced mind.
Matt?
Sadly, probably not. Again, this isn't a go-to genre for me. I don't know. Like every time I try to get into one, I don't stick with it for very long unless I have to, like this one. But again, knowing it was only an hour with rewind helped with that. But sadly no. I'll play Nier Automata again.
Well, we're gonna keep trying. We'll keep throwing some shooting games your way. See if one of them pushes you there. I know for me, after getting good at, I wouldn't say I'm good, but getting better at these games, R-Type is one I want to go back to because I think R-Type has like such a weird, I don't know. There's like kind of that alien vibe to it. There's a story in them. There's different. That whole power up system is a lot different than traditional power up stuff, but. Yeah, that's one I for sure want to get good at. I've got a few recommendations if people do like Gleylancer and they want something else similar to it. The one I'd actually recommend the least, but it's probably the most relative, is called Guy Noog or Guy Noog. It's Gynoug. Kind of like Space Harrier, where you play as like a dude with a gun. It's side scrolling just like Gleylancer, but you're playing as a dude with a gun or like an angel. But it's by the same developers. It's also been re-released by Retalaika on modern platforms, also for $6 or $7, whatever it is. But I kind of don't like that one at all. It's not as fun to play. I don't really like I don't know. But it's there. It's accessible. It's got a lot of the same stuff in the modern release that this one did. But beyond that, I would recommend Arrow Flash for the Mega Drive. Arrow Flash is a really cool shooter, just like this, where you have your, again, Mega Drive, so ABC, your A button. Actually, this did come out on Genesis as well, so let me speak in North American. The A button swaps between being a regular jet and in a mech. The
Cool.
B button is your shot, and the C button does your arrow flash attack, which is kind of like a super bomb thing. But that one too, I think, like Gleylancer, has a bit of a story to it, so there's like stuff you can kind of follow along. Very light, just like this. But I think Gleylancer was cool because it had kind of that Phantasy Star 4 or Phantasy Star 2 vibe to it in its art and presentation. Arrow Flash is a bit of that. Zero Wing is another one that came out on Genesis, which is, I think here most popularly known for the meme stuff with all your base belong to us. But it's actually a really good shooter, and that just got re-released on the Switch Virtual Console stuff. What is it called? Switch Online?
Yeah.
Whatever the heck. Yeah. But Zero Flash is cool. Or, I'm sorry, Zero Wing is cool. Especially sub-weapon style. You do get kind of these extra ships attached to you, but they do different types of shooting, and they're pretty fun. And if you play it on that Genesis stuff on Switch, it does have rewind, so that's helpful. Two more that I think are cool, and then one that's an obvious. There's one called Ginga Fuke Densetsu Sapphire, which is a PC Engine game, or PC Engine CD, I think. Yes, this is CD. It is so good looking. It should not be on that console. Kind of like Rondo of Blood, where Rondo of Blood just looks way better than it is hardware-wise. Genga Fuke Densetsu Sapphire is the same thing. You choose between one of 4 pilots, each with a different color hair. There's like a girl with blue hair, purple, pink, and green. And they each have different ships, which have different shots. And then you get sub-weapons. The cool thing with this, it kind of does like if you've ever played a cave shooter, like Dodonpachi or I can't think of anything else right now. Where like after you die, your power-up just goes bouncing around the screen and you have to grab it again. So it does that bit. But this one just has so many cool background effects and it's really, really pretty to look at. But that one's pretty tough. That one, unfortunately, is not... Actually, the next few are not really widely available modern platforms. The next one I'd say is pretty cool. It's called Battlemania. I think Daiginju is pretty good. That's specifically the Japanese version, but Battlemania, you play as 2 girls who, Space Harrier style, are kind of flying with guns, but they're back to back. And at least in this one, you start as the one girl, and I forget her name, and you're shooting from left to right of the screen. You can move up or down, left and right, and you're shooting always to the right. After you beat the first stage, you meet up with the other girl, and she kind of pins to you back to back. So now whenever you place your shot, you're shooting forwards and backwards, and they now add obstacles left and right of the screen. But you can also hit a button to swap, so you're both shooting forward, which is neat, but it depends on gameplay. And then last but not least, man, if you can get that Aleste collection for Switch or PS4, just do that, man. It's super good. There's a ton of stuff packed in there. There's the 3 Game Gear games. One of them is a brand new one just made 2020. There's also both Power Strike games for the Master System. And yeah, M2's making a new Aleste game, or it's already out in arcades in Japan. And then they're supposed to be bringing it to home consoles at some point, but they keep getting pulled into all these other collections and weird stuff, and I don't know. But M2's keeping shooting games alive, for sure. Anyway, that's my little sub-rant on that. But yeah, it's a genre that I think I did not appreciate to its fullest until the last few years, and I think games like Gleylancer continue to add to that appreciation and adoration of it. Yeah, I'm always like, they just put out a new one. I don't know if you ever heard of Pocky and Rocky, but there's a new, so Pocky and Rocky Reshrined just came out a couple weeks ago for the Switch. And it might be on more than Switch, but I know it's on Switch. And it's kind of like it's basically a remaster of the SNES game, but it's not a remaster. They actually rebuilt it from scratch in Unity. But despite it being built in Unity, it kind of like, there's a whole, if you want the full breakdown, of course, John Linneman did a breakdown on Digital Foundry about a month ago. It does not fall into some of the same tropes as other 2D Unity games, which is cool. It still feels like an SNES game at times. Actually, yeah, it is on multiple platforms, and now if I remember correctly, John Linneman said the Switch version is not the best way to play it, so maybe don't do that. But yeah, it's out there. Any other thoughts on Gleylancer, or things we didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about?
I forgot I was muted there for a second. There was one note I made. I don't know why. I laughed like way harder than I should have. But at the end of stage 6, there's a cutscene where dude from the main fleet ship calls in, and for whatever reason, I just die laughing when he was like, "What you did was selfish," and I'm not very selfish of her to steal that prototype ship. I agree, but why are you just now dialing in after stage 6? Yeah, why would have been a call at stage 1? or 2 at the latest.
Yeah, she's been on a very
yeah. I'm halfway through the game
point.
at this point, and now you call to tell me what I did was selfish. I don't know why. Again, it just broke me for that dumb cutscene or whatever. But yeah, that was that's like the one note that I have for this game is just the mark that cutscene made me cackle way too much.
Yeah, when playing this game, it made me think about other games because this had elements of those. I thought that was really cool. I guess this first one not so much, but shout out to the backgrounds in Gleylancer. I thought that was really cool. It kept moving. It was always different. It was never really that static. And I feel like a lot of games in that genre don't really utilize it like that. It kind of reminded me of Gunstar Heroes in a way, with some boss fights, with how those backgrounds can be crazy. And I think that was just more of just a like Sega thing with a lot of their games. I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
And with the story, she made me think that she was going to die at the end, because it was like 2 or 3 times she said, "I'm coming back alive, I promise." I'm like, why do you keep saying this? Why? Like,
yeah, why?
Like, she wants to save her dad or whatever. And I was like, you know what? You may or may not be a better, I don't want to say character, but maybe than Fox McCloud, because in Star Fox, I mean, it's presumed that, your dad is dead. But like in 64, he helps you at the end, but you don't know if he was alive or not, or if it was just a ghost, or whatever.
He's an F-Zero. He's not, yeah.
Right.
Can't be around.
I think and I don't know if they highlighted if that was really why Fox joined that crew, if it was because of his dad, or if it was like he had to. I don't remember that specific, but like it was, you never saw that as the focal point. He doesn't really talk about his dad. It was just like felt like an afterthought in some ways, depending on the game. But with this one, like, that was the whole focal point. It was just like, you weren't just some dude saving a damsel or something like that. It was, you're this female protagonist going to save her father. And I don't think a lot of games touch on something like that. So in a way, it kind of hit some of those marks like Valis 3 did for me with
yeah.
It being at the time it came out, and that type of character, which was for some reason not a common thing. So yeah, it was nice to see something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like starting to get there, right? Like that whole Bishoujo subgenre or genre, so to speak, like between Valis and Sailor Moon and something like this. I think Phantasy Star also did a good job of like putting a female character at the front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, I think the other interesting thing too is like we would start to get female characters in the late 90s, but any flip through an old video game magazine will show you how incredibly sexualized
Right.
the female characters were, both by the developers themselves, but especially the advertising, and even made worse by the people writing the magazines, where stuff like this did not feel that way at all. Maybe in some ways, somewhere, but like in the core game itself, like never got that at all. Even the final title screen, or the after the, or right before the credits, that shot where like you did it, you saved Papa, like it's just a girl trying to help her dad out. It's not anything weird or like yeah. Well, it's time to rank Advanced Busterhawk Gleylancer among the rest of our list here. Mark, what's your gut say?
Let's see. It's funny. I mentioned Valis, and I kind of see it hanging around that. Whether it's above or below, I might put it above. As far like, if we were just talking visuals, Valis would be above.
Yeah,
like Matt said, the art style. But gameplay, I think I would gravitate more towards the shmup over this one.
I did play another Valis like this week. I got to pull up the name of it, but it's kind of like a Japanese Scooby-Doo where you're hunting ghosts for Super Famicom. You might like it, Mark.
It's sold already.
Yeah.
I'm laughing the entire time because Mark said every single thought to the exact dotted I and T. I have it hanging right around Valis, and I don't know to put it above or below because I was more intrigued by the story and the art in Valis than in Gleylancer. I almost just did it there too. Gleylancer, but I'd rather play Gleylancer than Valis because a brief reminder: Valis is stiff as shit.
Yeah.
I think I always go with gameplay is king. So I would have it above Valis, but are you even there, Joe? Where are you at on the board altogether?
Above Wii Sports.
Yeah, basically. Right at like number 1, I'd say. No, I really like this, and I do like that it opened up the genre to me a bit more. Again, I think if we were talking Aleste, then that changes this conversation a bit. But in terms of like this game in particular, I think it's got a banging soundtrack that cannot be understated, which immediately passes the Devil's Crush threshold. Because Devil's Crush is a great soundtrack, super awesome, but this is like above and beyond that.
And there's more tracks.
Yes, yeah. I think this is above Valis for me in terms of like replayability and just core gameplay. But I do love Valis for its inventiveness and how unique Valis is. There's so many games like Gleylancer. There's very few games like Valis. And rather, I would say that Gleylancer is like many games, where I would say that Valis is in a league of its own, which I think that kind of sets it above for me, in a way. To that end, I like this over Minish Cap, if we start getting there. But then I start climbing higher and higher and making arguments in my head to get this higher on the list, and I don't think I'm going to win those. So, I think go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think personally, again though, I think it's the genre thing for me though. I was only the last level of Minish Cap. I'd rather go back to Minish Cap to finish it than go through another run of this. I think.
Yeah,
I'm not itching for either one to be honest. I think if I had to choose between the two though.
Yeah, I can. It's weird for me. It's like for me the deciding factor for a lot of this is that rewind button.
Right.
It like make or breaks the game for me.
And that's that weird thing. Like, are we ranking it based off the original game that doesn't have it, or are you ranking it on the added addition that we have in the new, in the re-release?
Yeah.
And that's a tricky thing. But we ran into the same problem with Valis, because Valis was incredibly difficult, and there's no way I beat that game without a rewind button. So.
Because like with it, I could see it putting above Minish Cap. But without it, I think without it, it would be like around Devil's Crush on this list for me.
I think the other thing that differs from Minish Cap for me is like playing Minish Cap makes me want to play more Zelda games. Playing this makes me want to see more of the genre and see what else is out there in that regard, which doesn't necessarily mean that this is better or worse, but I do appreciate kind of what it does for the genre. So I don't know. I'm good with this below Minish, above Valis. I've got no problem with that.
I kind of want to put it above Minish just because.
I'm good with that too.
Again, I don't want to be the one to ever put a game above Zelda, because again, Minish Cap was one of the first top downs that I've actually sat down and played for a while. I know there's better ones out there, so if you all want to take it above that, I'm following suit.
Yeah, like Minish, I wanted to like that more, and then the more I'm realizing that the game is just a remix of everything, it's like kind of waters it down for me and doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth whenever I talk about it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm fine either way.
So not... Alright, I won't do that then. I'll put that back where it was. But...
I mean, it was still a
do we
fun
like it above
Zelda
Minish?
game.
Let me put it above Minish.
The what?
Yeah, because I at least finished Gleylancer.
Congratulations, you had an hour and a day to spend.
But I mean, there's that says something to it. Zelda could have been an hour.
Yeah.
It never will be, unless you're speedrunning it.
Hey, you give me Breath of the Wild an hour. I taught you all that lesson.
It's true. That's very true.
Just run right for the castle.
Let me ask this. Would you sooner recommend to a listener that they pick up Gleylancer or Minish Cap? Let's assume they could buy Minish Cap for $7 on the eShop.
Right. I was assuming that too.
Oh, man. I guess I would recommend Gleylancer first, only on the count of just easier to get into, and you get the point within the first level. You don't have to invest as much as Zelda.
Yeah.
Zelda has a lot to offer, but it also requests a lot of time to get the full experience of that. Gleylancer, you don't necessarily need to beat it to get the full experience of it. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but in terms of recommending a game, that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, because if I'm recommending Zelda, I'm probably not recommending the Minish Cap. That's
True.
That's the tough part for me there. As long as the person that I'm recommending it to is fine with the difficulty, but there is the rewind button. I'm probably recommending Gleylancer as well. The difficulty is my hesitancy. That's the only thing. But the rewind is a counter to it.
And I don't think any of us played on easy.
No.
So I wonder.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I wonder how more approachable that is for a newcomer.
Yeah, if you did, just try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It is friendly with lives. Don't you get a new life every stage?
Yeah, every time you rewind.
Yeah, and every 10,000 points, I think, also kicks one.
Maybe that's what maybe I was averaging that.
Or you don't quote me on that. After playing this, I ended up playing a lot of shooters, so I might have played something else this week that it was 10,000 points, you get a new life.
I remember the points giving me a life and also picking up the little extra life icon.
Right,
okay.
There were those as well.
If you want to follow along with the list, you can do that at thefreecheese.com/thelist to see all 27 games we've ranked so far. And of course, links back to every episode we've recorded this season. Got quite a bit more to go, starting with next week. Mark, what are we playing next week?
Well, because I didn't memorize it, so I'm going to look at the list.
I think it's a cool game.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick up a bottle of DNL if you know what I mean.
Yeah, friggin' cool spot.
Well,
Here's
what
your,
platform?
I was thinking Super Nintendo.
Okay.
Even though I had discovered that a lot of cooler ones are out there. But but yeah, the one I played as a wee lad.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we all think of that one, because it's cool spot's something, man. So yeah, if you want to join us, you can check out Cool Spots on, I think Super Nintendo and Genesis are the main two to probably check in with if you've got access to either. And yeah, we'll be back next week with episode 463 to talk Cool Spot. Until then, this has been Gleylancer. We've been the Free Cheese. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next week. Goodbye.